Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. I was thinking today about the rather sort of random pressing. Would you call it a press conference? There was only one guy there, which is Fury and his team. Usyk wasn't there, but more of a sort of publicity presser, if you like, that he gave yesterday. And I was thinking, well, like a lot of people, a lot of people have commented on this, that it does seem that it was really a case of Fury and his team emphasising, look, this fight will go ahead on May the 18th. Don't worry, I'm not going to pull out. But a few people have said that it also played the part in that it sort of tried to convince people that Fury is confident about this fight. Perhaps it was trying to convince Fury himself that he's confident about this fight. I don't know about that. Yeah, that's certainly feasible. But there was one thing that really stood out for me with the whole thing, and that is that he dwelled upon the idea that elite cruiserweights can't beat elite heavyweights. Okay, well, first of all, let's talk about Oleksandr Usyk, because he isn't your standard elite cruiserweight. You can make a case for him being the greatest cruiserweight of all time. Better than Holyfield even. Certainly better than David Haye. And he's also, so far, jumped up to heavyweight and beaten a very good gatekeeper in Derek Chisora. That was only his second fight at heavyweight. And then he beat Anthony Joshua twice. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, he beat Joshua, Joshua's no good, or he's not elite. You've got to define what this word elite means also. What does that mean? Because I would certainly say that Joshua has, throughout most of his career, certainly since he won the IBF belt, I'd say he's been in the top between rank number 1 to number 3 for most of his career, his subsequent career. So if that's not elite, what is elite? Are we talking Hall of Famers? In which case, you can actually make a pretty compelling case for letting Joshua into the Hall of Fame, just like you can Fury. And also, while we're on the subject of Fury, if you look at his resume, yes, the wins against Wilder and Klitschko were very good, but there isn't a lot of depth there once you get beyond those two names. The amount of heavyweight fights he's had, it's not excessive. Joshua's had many more heavyweight title fights than Fury has. Does that mean Fury's not a future Hall of Famer? No, not at all. But if we're talking elite, especially at this point of his career, when he looked so awful against Ngannou and, looked sort of run-of-the-mill against Derek Chisora, who shouldn't have even been in the damn ring with him, is he elite at the moment, at this point of his career? All this stuff is purely subjective. And you can sort of delve into all sorts of conjecture about it, but it does seem to me that Fury in that conference was trying to hammer home a point because either, or perhaps both, he wanted the public to swallow the idea that Usyk isn't in his class, he's too small for him, in which case, why, when you beat him, don't expect to get any respect then, because you lost to a guy who's too small for you. You've always been saying he's a middleweight or all sorts of nonsense like this, which of course he isn't. Is it that, or is it that he's trying to convince himself that Usyk is too small for him? I think he knows, despite all this, even though he may be trying to lie to himself, which is an impossible task because you can never really lie to yourself, he knows Usyk is a threat. Usyk is a 6'3", 16 stone man. That's not small. It might be small compared to Tyson Fury because Tyson Fury is so big, but most people are small compared to Tyson Fury. Most people actually are small compared to Oleksandr Usyk. You saw what Usyk did with another naturally bigger man, Anthony Joshua. Admittedly, Joshua doesn't have certain skills that Tyson Fury has, and also Anthony Joshua isn't probably as big in terms of natural weight as Tyson Fury is. But he's big enough. And guess who else is big enough? Oleksandr Usyk. So I'm not really buying this idea that this narrative that Fury's trying to spin about cruiserweights. Yes, okay, fighters, the elite heavyweights, the biggest heavyweights now, are extremely big in historical terms. You look at a Jack Dempsey or a Rocky Marciano, they were cruiserweights, small cruiserweights, actually. There are heavyweight champs. I mean, if you want to go back all the way back to Tommy Burns, it was basically a super middleweight. Certain light heavyweights before the cruiserweight division even existed. People like Bob Foster were absolute killers at light heavyweight. He stepped up as an example to fight heavyweights. He got blown out of the water by Frazier in 2 rounds, and was it 8 rounds by Ali. He just wasn't big enough. But Oleksandr Usyk wasn't a light heavyweight. Oleksandr Usyk has fought big men in the past in that sort of halfway house. I always forget the name of that world boxing series, or whatever bloody hell it's called. You know what I mean? 5-round fights. It's the halfway house between the amateurs and the pros. He's fought Joe Joyce. He's fought other big men. He was never a small man. He brought himself down to cruiserweight, not up. He wasn't eating his way into the division. So if you want to talk about smaller guys, I mean, yeah, okay, you got the odd aberration like Michael Spinks twice beating an aging Larry Holmes, although a lot of people feel Holmes won that second fight, certainly. And the first one was reasonably close. I did think Spinks won it. So we're talking about the margin of difference, even though heavyweights are much, much bigger in this day and age, much bigger. That cruiserweight division is there for a reason. And it may have taken some years to take off, but eventually people did settle into it, recognizing it as, again, a sort of halfway house between light heavy and heavyweight, which is what it was meant to be, but also quite a reputable division. So, no, I don't buy the idea that, I know what Fury's getting at, and I wouldn't dismiss the whole argument. I think size does matter, but I don't think, in the case of Oleksandr Usyk, first of all, he's a generational talent. He's an amazing fighter. And secondly, he's not that small. Don't forget, Fury likes to hang his hat on the whole concept of those 3 Wilder fights. Wilder weighed probably, in terms of natural weight, 50 pounds less than Tyson Fury. But Fury likes to sort of tell whoever will listen, they were 3 of the greatest heavyweight fights of all time. It was like one of the great heavyweight trilogies of history. It was very good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. But no, I'm not buying this cruiserweight thing. Not in the case of Usyk. You can make the argument most cruiserweights, yeah, but if ever there was an example of someone who is an exception to the rule, it's got to be Oleksandr Usyk. And by the way, this isn't a video stating that I think absolutely Usyk will win. I'm going to make that decision later on and make my own video about it. But I know a lot of you think Usyk will win, but some of you who aren't fanboys, who are just proper boxing fans, are still picking Fury to win. That's fair enough. You can make a case for either guy. But let's say, if Tyson was to beat Oleksandr Usyk, would it have anything to do with the size or the fact that he's a former cruiserweight? No more so than the fact that he outweighed Wilder by God knows how much. Fury is just a very, very, very big man. Right. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours. Comments below as always. And please subscribe to the channel if you're new. And hit the like button and do all that good stuff. And spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. I appreciate that a lot. I will speak to you later. Looking forward to reading your comments. Bye for now.